And joining me now is...
Hi, I'm Alice from Force Toast Podcast.
And I'm Laura, also from the Force Toast Podcast.
We're Force Toasting it up here on the Outlander Club. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks. We're happy to be here.
Awesome. You might not be in a couple minutes. So let's just stick with this train of positivity right now. Before we get started and before we hear about how, your Star Wars story, Force Toast Podcast, the title intrigued me. And then I listened to it and I said, oh, it's actually very on the nose. So how did that come about from start to finish? How did you both come up with the idea for Force Toast Podcast? And I love that you drink and talk Star Wars.
Thank you. So this podcast has been in the works for over a year, and I think we were at like a Taco Tuesday trying to think of names, and we just kept coming up with the most horrible shit. I mean, we came up with probably I have this notebook page, and it's just all these shitty words like Naboo's Cruise, Palpatinis, Bar drinks. I mean, rosé for Padme. We were just thinking of the shittiest shit forever. And any good idea we have, there's about 100 bad ones. So there had been, there's the concept that everyone's freaking out about constantly is Force Ghost. So we were like, Force Toast, a Star Wars happy hour. But sometimes people confuse it with bread, but that's okay.
Yeah, and that's how we explain the joke, which always makes jokes funnier when you have to explain them. But yeah, Force Toast, a Star Wars happy hour is the name of the full name of our show, and it was a long time coming. Took us a long time to come up with the names. You should see every other week when we're trying to come up with the title of our episodes. That takes a long time too. We're still working at getting better at this.
Yeah, we only need 100. We only need 100 ideas, and one of them will work. That's
awesome.
How we work.
Well, it seems like every time I listen, it sounds like you have the good flow, and it seems like you just kind of figured it out very easily. So kudos to you for not letting us know the struggle behind the scenes.
Thank you. We're revealing it here. We should cut all of this and start over.
Yeah, I'll let my editor know to cut all of this. Yeah, right. So why drinks in Star Wars? I gotta know, you just
because that's who we are as people.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we had been thinking when we first started talking, or when we first met, one of the first things we did was exchange podcasts that we listened to, kind of the same night, and when it comes to women podcasters and then there aren't a whole lot that are for Star Wars that are all women. And then our first friend dates, we were just downing bottles of wine like there's no tomorrow. So we thought, well, why is no one drinking on their podcast? That's weird. And then we were like, why is no one talking how we talk and just saying shit and fuck a lot? That's weird. So why don't we just make what we want to hear and go for it?
Okay, that's so how long have you two known each other for?
We met in December 2017, and it was I think it was the week after The Last Jedi came out. So there were a lot of Star Wars trivias happening in the Chicago area. So Alice and I were kind of making the rounds in the trivia circuit in the city, and we had competed against each other before in a couple of Star Wars trivias, just regular pub trivias, and we hadn't met. Eventually, it came down to one night when Alice came in first, I came in second, and the trivia master was like, you know what? You should really go meet this girl that's at the bar. She's playing by herself. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so Alice came over and chatted with our table, and then she and I shut the bar down, just sitting talking wine and drinking, or talking Star Wars and drinking wine, and it was a blast. So that was essentially how we met. It was Star Wars trivia, and that's very much ingrained in our show. We quiz each other every episode, except for the most recent one we recorded where we just ran out of time. We were just like, do we do this? No, we're just not going to do this. It's fine. But that's the only one that we actually have not quizzed each other in.
Do you find it hard to figure out what length of show you should have, or are you dead set on your time?
Ooh, it varies.
Yeah.
We cut out a lot because we just go on rampages that make no sense, or, we have really long drink breaks, but usually I think we record like an hour and a half to a little over 2 hours and then just see where it comes out when we edit.
Yeah, normally our episodes come down to about an hour to 20 hour and 40 minutes depending on the week. We're every other week. We release new episodes every other Tuesday. So the idea was like our show's called a Star Wars Happy Hour. We would keep it around an hour. We tend to go over, but that's okay because we have a lot of fun. So it's no worries.
Yeah,
A counterpoint to that. Yeah. A counterpoint to that, sorry, is have you actually been to a happy hour that only lasts an hour? Because I haven't.
Hell no.
Exactly. Perfect.
True. Well, the fun definitely, you can feel the fun when you listen to your show. It's definitely you off the cuff, just having a good time, talking Star Wars. And you actually both made me want to pick up Alphabet Squadron before it even was released. I think it was you did an episode on all the characters. I said, yeah, I want to know what Adam Levine's up to. So that got me. But I still haven't read it, so
that's okay. It's brand new.
Yes,
if you could like pass that information on to like Del Rey and Disney, that would like help us out a lot. So
they don't listen.
Yeah,
to
they're
me,
ignoring me.
Oh, they ignore me too.
So they actually messaged me because I'm like, how do I get free copies of your shit? And they're like, okay, it's a process. We'll review. Don't be offended if we don't like accept you for it. And then I realized that like a lot of my tweets have been marked as sensitive content, and I was like, oh shit, they're not gonna like approve me if they like look at my Twitter profile and see all the sensitive content, and I don't know why it's being tagged that. And then just today, and I contacted Del Rey like 2 months ago. Just today, I realized I had a setting checked that said some of my content is sensitive, and that's why they were being blocked. So that probably screwed me over for all the advance copies.
Oh well, that's okay. We have to like we read them on the schedule of all of like our friends and stuff, so that when we talk to them or talk about these books, our listeners are like, oh yeah, okay, I've read this. I'm not, we don't want to be talking about and spoiling a book before it even comes out, so it's whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find if I was ever given advance copies, it'd be like, well, I can read it early, but I can't talk about it until it comes out at least. And then even if you post it the day it comes out, it's like, well, that's kind of you're ruining it for some people. Like, not everybody's going to want to listen to it. From what I like, my own perspective on that is I would like to wait a week to know what happens in a book, especially when Adam Levine is the main character of that book. All right, so
He's so cute.
He's in a little spinny chair pressing a button like, I want you on my team.
That is the whole premise of Alphabet Squadron is that character sitting in a spinny chair pressing a button. That's
different.
Yeah, of course. All right, let's get into your Star Wars story, how it all started. Before we get into anything, let's get to your first introduction to a galaxy far, far away. Alice, you want to start?
Yep, the Ewok adventure movies. They are awesome when you're like 3 years old. Um, so I want to say, I'm pretty sure that they came on the Disney Channel way, way back in the day, that they'd be played on that. And I was such a TV baby that I watched everything. Like I knew how to use the VCR better than my mother when I was 2. Like if something was on, I was watching it or figuring it out. So I loved those little Ewoks. So probably like late 80s-ish. Yeah. And then probably a few years later, I guess, I was at my grandmother's house and just flipping through the TV stations, and what do I see? The Ewoks. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the Ewoks! I haven't seen them in so long. It was Return of the Jedi, obviously, on like TNT or TBS. I really liked that. I had a lot of guy friends mostly in school, and they were all into Star Wars. I remember seeing the re-releases in the 90s with all the extra effects and the Taco Bell toys and all of that. So kind of been like I wouldn't say fair weather fan, but I've never not been a fan. It's only the past 2+ years that I've like really, really gotten into it. Like deep dive, read all the shit, listen to all the podcasts, like, just kind of destroy all knowledge possibilities.
Isn't it amazing how the Ewoks are, though? Like, you watch them as a kid, and then years later you can go back to them, and there's something about them that just sparks some kind of weird joy in you. That it's like this nostalgic smile that you can't shake, and you're just instantly engaged and enthralled within the Star Wars universe again because of the little bears that walk around with hoodies.
Yeah, they're a ton of fun.
Yeah.
That blows my mind that like the Ewoks could have done that for anybody at that time, because before the re-releases came out and when those Ewok movies, the spin-off movies, Alice and I watched, which one was it? The first
Caravan of Courage.
Yeah, Caravan of Courage was like our second episode, and I'm a new Star Wars fan, and so I had no idea that like the Ewoks didn't blink before a certain time. And when I'm to this day, I'm still mortified. Like, I still cannot even believe that like anybody had any attachment to these like creepy looking little murder bears at all. It just blows my mind, because the only version I've ever seen of Return of the Jedi are like the specialized editions that have blinking Ewoks. So it cracks me up. I love it. I don't know. It's just so funny to me.
I just, as a child of the 80s, I watched them Ice Capades, Ewoks on Ice. I went to go see that with my aunt, and it was the greatest night of my entire life. And I don't want to say that my wife might be listening, because our wedding was actually the best night of my life. But it was actually Ewoks on Ice. But you say that you're a new Star Wars fan, so can you walk me through that a little bit? What got you in the Star Wars door?
You know, I've sort of always, I'm kind of like Alice in that I've always had a fandom to call home. So I was a Harry Potter fan for a really long time. I was a big BBC Sherlock fan for a long time. So it was always sort of on the outskirts for me. And I saw The Phantom Menace back in 99, but it just didn't connect with me then. So what drew me in was when I first saw the teaser for The Force Awakens. So that would have been in late 2014. So I'm one of these new sequel trilogy, one of these fans that was brought in by the sequel trilogy, and then went back and sort of found the Clone Wars and started reading the books. And my favorite Star Wars of all of them, of all the movies, of all the television, is Star Wars Rebels. That was really kind of when I feel like I sort of came into my own as a fan. For whatever reason, that show just really spoke to me. I really love the characters. To this day, I still love the characters and find them really compelling, which is one of the reasons I was really excited for Alphabet Squadron, since Hera Syndulla makes an appearance in that. But yeah, it was essentially, the teaser for The Force Awakens that brought me in as a fan and really kind of pushed me to be like, okay, you need to go figure out what this is all about before this movie comes out next year. So it was, from there it was history.
That's interesting that it was Rebels that pulled you in, because that was the first animated series from Disney when Disney took over, and that actually, I think, at first drew a lot of people, pulled a lot of people away from Star Wars. They said, "This is not a Star Wars. This looks like a cartoon." So it's kind of intriguing to me that that's the one that captivated you.
Yeah, I mean, no, and it wasn't even, to be honest, it wasn't season 1 that captivated me. To this day, I truly don't care for it. But I mean, when I first started watching Star Wars Rebels, it was already in season 2, and by that point, Ahsoka Tano had come back, and it was, it just made it so much more interesting and made everything about the story more compelling for me. So it was I don't know, it's been an interesting journey. I'm still a new fan, but what I lack in history, I promise I make up for in enthusiasm. Hence the podcast, and hence our trivia expertise. And yeah, that's where we are today.
And your Schmodown appearance, which was awesome.
Star Wars Celebration. I made an appearance at the Schmodown panel. That was a lot of fun. I didn't win, but I think I did well, I think. So I'm excited. Hopefully we'll do something again at some point soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll just side Akbar now, but you are going to Celebration Anaheim. You are the reason why there are no more 4-day passes available.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much for that.
We're not sorry. Yeah.
And nor should you be. How many celebrations have you been to?
Anaheim will be my third one. It'll be Alice's second. We were shooting for VIP both last year, or both for 2019 and for 2020. We didn't quite get it, but we're excited. We'll be there all 4 days. And yeah, very much looking forward to doing Celebration in a city that has no chance of snow.
Oh yeah, I wasn't at Chicago, but yeah, I had a friend there, and wow, that was like a great time on the Monday.
It's ridiculous.
Partying, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Snow doesn't matter when you've been drinking all night. You're still warm. Your body temperature is nice and fire. All right, let's go to the prequels. Let's rewind to the prequels. Alice, were you excited for the Phantom Menace as you were into Star Wars and the Ewoks? Were you excited for that?
So I actually didn't see, as far as going to theaters, so 99, I was in middle school. I actually didn't see The Phantom Menace in theaters. I didn't watch it for the first time because everyone talks so much shit about it. I didn't watch it for the first time until before Revenge of the Sith came out because I hosted like a total Star Wars movie watching party at my house. So obviously I bought the used DVD from Blockbuster. Um, but I just kind of wasn't, you know, I wasn't super engaged with it at that time.
What about Attack of the Clones: Revenge of the Sith? Did you become engaged at all with those, or was it the same story?
Oh yeah, so I saw Attack of the Clones. My memories of that, maybe I have like Stockholm syndrome or something. It's my favorite movie out of all of them. And there was this family with 3 little kids who I babysat all the time. You know, I would stay there on weekends. I was there, you know, every 2 weeks or so. And they knew I liked Star Wars. So every time I came over, they were like, oh, we have a DVD of Attack of the Clones. Let's watch it. And I'm like, okay. You know, every single time without fail, it was either watch Attack of the Clones or play N64 Pokemon Stadium. And I probably watched it about a dozen times at least in 1 year. So I just like really grew to love it. And then as far as Revenge of the Sith, you know, like I said earlier, my 2 best friends were these dudes, and we were so dorky. I mean, like, we learned how to write in Elvish because we really liked Lord of the Rings. They bought swords off eBay, and we'd have sword fights in driveways. I don't know why. It was very strange. But we did the whole midnight movie back when there were actual midnight movies and you had to wait until like 11:59 to get on, and saw Revenge of the Sith there, and it's so awesome when you have that experience of all these people who are like camping out essentially and up really late and just like hyped up on caffeine like there's no tomorrow. And so that was a lot of fun, and seeing what happened, I didn't know what to expect. Everyone did laugh when, you know, Anakin/Vader wakes up and is just like, no.
Oh yeah.
But but yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So I gotta rewind to Attack of the Clones because we do every January 1st, New Year's Day, we do a top 10 or a top live action ranking of the Star Wars movies on Rebel Scum podcast. And this year when I did mine, I had Attack of the Clones actually at number 5. And
nice.
Everyone else but one person had it dead last, I believe.
I was going to say number 5 is much higher than the average bear, I think.
Very high.
Usually 9 or 10.
Yeah, it's usually at the very bottom. But for me, there is that opening scene with the car chase in Coruscant, the speeder chase in Coruscant. When somebody says Star Wars to me, my mind goes there for some reason. And the more I think about it, the more, yeah, there's some stiff acting in it. And the droid factory, I'm still a little queasy on. But the movie as a whole, I'm like, I think so fondly of that movie that maybe I drink too much because I love that. I love Attack of the Clones. And it's nice to hear that somebody else has something positive to say about it. So thank you for that.
And unapologetic.
Yes.
So there.
Yeah, that's
I do
right.
think that to this day it does have the best score of all of the Star Wars films to date.
Yeah, you might be right. Actually, it's
true.
I think it does have a Cross of Stars, and it has some Duel of the Fates in there, and all the music is fantastic for sure.
Yeah.
So after Revenge of the Sith has now come out, there's no Star Wars for a while. So you both kind of live in your Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter worlds? Is that fair to say? You're both kind of entrenched in some other fandoms for the time being?
Exactly right.
Yeah, for me there was no dark time for me as a Star Wars fan because I'm just too new at it, and
Yeah.
I feel bad for all of those people that went through that, where all they had to cling to was the damn Thrawn trilogy. But I really can't relate to it. I was a very happy, a nerdy kid, just engrossed in other fandoms at the time.
So obviously, when the Disney purchase happened, you had no care for. You're just like, whatever. It happened. That's fantastic news. Like, whatever.
Totally.
Yeah, it had no effect on me at all.
Yeah, none at all. But then, okay, so let's just go right to that Force Awakens teaser trailer that dropped on what I like to call American Thanksgiving, which is after Canadian Thanksgiving. And this year I celebrated both because I can. Yeah.
I remember that day. I remember waiting for it because it was Black Friday, or what we call Black Friday.
Yeah, we do too. We piggyback any kind of discounts we can off of you. They're not quite as good, but we're like, wow, I need a discount on a TV. Black Friday. Let's go.
Yeah, I remember the hype, like waiting for it and just getting so stoked. Like, okay, it's coming out this day. I remember watching it on my iPhone and just, being blown away. Laura had like an out of body experience watching it.
I truly did. Yeah, it was like one of those things in a movie when like everything around you goes silent, even though you're like surrounded by people. I'm pretty sure I was at like a party. Like we were probably watching some football game, and it was just like everything around me disappeared, and all I could see was like what was happening on the TV. It was bizarre. It spoke to my soul somehow.
So, but what was it that? Is there something that you can pick out right now? Like, when I say the Force Awakens teaser, where does your mind take you in that moment?
The first thing that comes to mind for me is the very opening scene where it's just a blank shot of the desert and then Finn popping up from the bottom of the screen. And if I recall, in my brain there was like a sort of sudden like music chime, kind of like the way that Rogue One starts. I could be wrong. I don't remember specifically, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was. I don't know what it was. I really can't pinpoint exactly what drew me in, but like just from the word go, that I was hooked.
Yeah, it's almost jarring because I felt the same way about just the whole opening scene. It's like it's jarring, but in a good way.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
It kind of pulled you. It kind of said like, this is. We're back to what Star Wars was, and it was almost like an 80s fantasy film in a lot of ways. It had that nostalgic feel to it, which I think even if you weren't into Star Wars, it brought you back to a period of time that felt a lot more innocent, maybe in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember like the sweeping themes throughout the rest of the, in terms of the music through the rest of the trailer and the Falcon flying around Jakku, but yeah, it was. I'm sure that had something to do with it. I'm a big film score buff, so the minute I hear something that a sweeping theme like that, like I'm in. I'm on board.
Okay, so how far for both of you? How far were you into obsessed with Star Wars now at this point? So that trailer has come and hey, you've both felt it, just like the Force. There's been an awakening. Have you felt it? You've both been like, oh, there is an awakening. It's Star Wars. How far along were you when the Chewie We're Home trailer was coming? Were you anticipating that one, or did you kind of let those 3-4 months, whatever it was, let you forget about Star Wars for a little bit?
I would Google for spoilers every now and then out of curiosity because like I was getting really excited about it. I did opening night tickets at IMAX and all of that. But I kept track of it from Googling kind of spoilers up into a point. And then like once October comes around, I just go in total blackout mode. Like I avoid as much as possible. So I kept up.
For me, that would have been the year that I spent getting caught up with the entire like saga. So I wouldn't have been like I definitely didn't see the movie. I didn't see the movie opening night. I wasn't tracking spoilers by any means. I was spending that year like finding out what exactly this was that I had just seen. And I went through and, watched all 6 films that were out at the time and started digging into the Clone Wars, and definitely wasn't into the books yet. I didn't get into Rebels until the following year. But yeah, that for me, that was catch up mode.
So, Alice, did you watch Celebration Anaheim, the Force Awakens panel at all?
No, I didn't watch anything to do with Celebration. I never really, I'd known about it, but it wasn't, I hadn't known a whole lot about it until after it happened, pretty much. It wasn't really on my radar, and I didn't have like Star Wars friends until Laura. I'd listen to podcasts and they'd all talk about their Star Wars friends and Celebration and all of that, and I was like, oh, is that really real? And it is, clearly. And I just kind of, it was more like whenever I felt like looking something up, then I did, and I waited, and I was excited about it, and I was ready for it, but I wasn't super engrossed yet.
So, Alice, you saw it opening night. Were you completely obsessed and back in Star Wars at that moment?
So I've always been excited about it. I'm trying to like figure out timelines in my head for stuff. Um, I saw it opening night. I remember like tearing up several times because they really hit you with the nostalgia aspects. And I think that was kind of the whole point of The Force Awakens is, you have the prequel people who are just, excited about it regardless. And then you have the people who are like disenchanted by the prequels. So bringing in all the old stuff, like, it was going to draw them in again to kind of combine the two groups, I guess. But I definitely had a lot of moments where I was tearing up, and Laura and I always talk about how like our hearts are like stone cold black and dead.
It's
so so me tearing up is kind of a big deal, but I got like a little emotional about it. And then it was about 2.5 years ago now, I'd say, that I really started or 27, is that two? Okay, sorry, time confuses me, but it was, I guess, about 2.5 years ago that I really, really started hopping back into Star Wars, or getting borderline obsessive with it. My job was really shitty and stressful, and I worked at home, and I said, like, okay, I'm gonna just have something on my iPad to calm me down. It's either gonna be Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or Harry Potter. And I picked Star Wars. And I just watched that shit on repeat. Like, I'm talking, I probably watched 1 or 2 movies a day forever. Saw Rogue One, loved it. Then I'd never really listened to podcasts much before, except one that does shitty Bravo recaps of all the housewife shows. And I started getting in the podcast. I started reading the books, and then started prepping to like play trivia by myself. And it all went from there.
We didn't lose him, did we?
I don't know, did we?
Oh, shit. Is he gone? Oh, God.
Oh, fuck.
Your answer was so good. I'm glad you still recorded it. Oh, no. Where'd he go? I wonder when he dropped off.
2 of 3 in the call. Shit.
Wait, so he is there? No, 2 of 3 in the call. I see what you mean. Okay.
He gone. I mean, I guess we could always just, like, freestyle right now.
Should we just interview each other?
Yeah.
Alice, what did you eat today? Tell me everything.
Well, I went downstairs and I got, like, Annie's single serving white mac and cheese, or white cheddar mac and cheese bowl.
Yes, I dig. I had mac and cheese for dinner last night. Keep going.
Wait. I love mac and cheese.
I love mac and cheese.
Rebel Scum podcast is unavailable. You know what now's a good time for? I need to put some more box wine in my cup.
Do it, man. I'll hang out. If he comes back, I'll let him know that you're refilling. So take your time.
Okay. I'm going to refill, and then maybe we'll just interview ourselves. And,
Cool.
And then just take it from there.
I'm gonna sit here and rock out to some Spotify. You do you. I'll see you in a little bit.
All right. Damn. Oh, he's pinging us. Okay.
Okay.
I think. Damn. He said damn woods. Anyway. Yeah, I'm going to go get box wine in my cup because I drank mine like way, way fast.
No, it's all good. Do it.
Wednesday, what you think, Miss Muffin? Are you tired of hearing my Star Wars story over and over? You could say it, huh? You could say it.
Ba, 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 ba.
No, come see. Come on. Come see. Mama's recording. Let's go. Do you want a smartphone? Want a smartphone, Miss Muffin? Come get your smartphone. Come get your treat for being a good girl. A good Wednesday. Good quiet Wednesday. All right, where are we at?
He's still not
Oops.
back. Can you hear my music?
Actually, no.
Really?
It
Oh
must
my-
just be pumping through your headphones,
Oh,
right?
sad. I'm like rocking out. That's too bad.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Well, at least we know I answered a question real good, and then we can go to whatever the next one would be.
Yeah, man. I don't even.
All
Yeah.
right.
What were we talking about, or what was the question that you just answered? It was a long answer. Sorry, I was listening, but now I
I
blacked out.
forgot to.
Oh, what the fuck is this?
I guess
Okay.
it was like what drew me back in.
Oh
all
yeah,
right.
you were talking about the
Yeah.
Force Awakens and like what drew you back in and like the whole I think you were talking about like the year leading up to the Force Awakens and then seeing it for the first time.
So seeing it the first time, and then what happened after, leading up to the Last Jedi.
Yeah,
And us meeting.
cool. Do you want to keep going talking about the Last Jedi and stuff, or should I jump in? Are we really doing this? Are we just gonna interview each other?
Sure.
I think
We
this
can
is
all. I
awesome.
mean, he'll always just have. Hi, James. He'll always just have some stuff he could cut in
Yeah.
around whatever.
He could just like plug his own voice back in, like, and ask questions himself. So
Yeah, true. Okay, so Laura, like, what, apart from watching the saga and getting into Rebels and all of that, like, what piqued your interest enough to consume it in such a way that you were like, fuck yeah, I'm looking up bar trivia?
that's a good question because I don't think I had any interest in going out and seeking out pub trivia until after I got back from Celebration 2017. So that would have been like April 2017 that happened in Orlando. And I went and I remember like waiting in line for what was either the Last Jedi panel or the Rebels panel because I was only there on Friday and Saturday. I only had tickets to 2 of the days. And somebody had Trivial Pursuit. And so we were sitting there, just like a bunch of us hanging out, waiting in line, playing, because we had been waiting in line with each other at that point for like 6 or 7 hours. So now we're all besties. And we just started playing, and I was surprised how well I did. And there were a couple other people that I was playing with that knew that I was a new Star Wars fan. And they were like, you're like weirdly good at this. And I was like, right? It's crazy.
Magic.
So yeah, then I came back and I was like, let's fucking do this. And so I was, started going to the pub trivias, and that was a couple of months before I met you. I guess I would have been kind of at it on my own or just going with friends for like, what is that, like 6 months or so, 7 months or so before we met?
Yeah, I didn't really start the circuit until that November because it was right before The Last Jedi came out. But now the Padawan has become the master.
It's a good time. You're a good trainer, though. You're a good coach, because if I didn't have you like quizzing me and I didn't have you being like, let's go to this Star Wars trivia that I found, then I'm like, when would I ever practice? Like, not to mention us like quizzing each other every other week is like,
Oh my god, I know, right?
yeah, shit's awesome.
I know. I needed to watch another movie again. It's been
Dude,
a while.
I have not watched the Star Wars movie in a long time. Oh, I was gonna bring he can cut this out, but I was gonna bring this up on, it's gonna be like my toast to this week,
Yeah.
on our show, that Timothy introduced me to the like fan edits of some of the movies, and I started watching this one called Pulp Empire, and it's like Pulp Fiction, or like basically an entire Quentin Tarantino edit of the film Empire Strikes Back, but it's got like other OT stuff spliced in. It even has like some of that Clone Wars TV show that's like not the official one. It has like stuff spliced in. It's so fucking good. I could shit my pants. I love it so much.
Oh my God. Yeah. I saw you wrote that in the outline and I was like, what the fuck is that? I don't
Dude,
know.
it's amazing. I don't like love Quentin Tarantino movies. It's just really, really well done in a very good imitation of like what the Empire Strikes Back would look like if it was edited by Quentin Tarantino. It's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I want to see that Leonardo DiCaprio movie that he has coming out about the Charles Manson killer shit.
Yeah, same. Because murder.
Murder. I love murder. Hey buddy, you back?
I'm back. Hi. Well, now I want to watch a Quentin Tarantino Empire Strikes Back.
Dude, it's so good.
What? Can you send me the link? Like, is there a link to
Yes.
it?
Yes, it's on YouTube. I'll send it to you. It like one of our like listeners / friends sent it to us, and sent it to me or told me about it at Celebration, and I like it's so good. That's really funny. Yeah, no, I'll definitely send it to you. It's great.
All right. Did we get into how you got into Rebels?
No, not really. I didn't get into it too much because I'm not totally sure how to explain that. I can try. I think that part of it was that I think what was out at the time, it may have been like the trailer for season 3, or maybe it was like the mid-season trailer for season 3, where I saw that like Kenobi was coming back, and I saw that like Ahsoka had been in it or something. You know, like I had gotten these little like glimpses of like characters that I kind of knew. To be totally honest, and this is sort of contentious, I actually like the animation style of Rebels more than the Clone Wars. So it just is like it's a little bit cleaner of movement for me, and so I think I was probably watching the Clone Wars at the time and probably paused and then went back and started watching Rebels before I went back and, you know, by the time I caught up and went back and finished Clone Wars. But I've always just thought the characters are really compelling. I, you know, was coming of age in the time that Freddie Prinze Jr. was having his like moment in Hollywood. So the fact that he was like doing the voice of a character on the show who was a Jedi, I was like, well, fuck yeah, I'm gonna watch that. So that was like the best of all the worlds, and so I that was probably a big part of it for me. And yeah, it's hard to explain because I still don't truly understand it myself. It's a show made for children, and I don't even really like children, so it's kind of strange that I really like this show as much as I do. But the characters were always just really compelling to me, and the animation style was something that I liked, and it held my attention. And I don't know, that was just it for me. That's all it took. It's to this day, it's still my favorite Star Wars. It's weird.
It's kind of awesome that's your favorite Star Wars. I agree, though. I prefer the animation style in Rebels to Clone Wars as well. I think just like you said, it's smoother. It's a little bit more polished.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's that's one of those things that I think
pleasing to the
not
eyes.
necessarily everybody agrees with, and a lot of people are very vocal about it. Up until the Clone Wars season 7 was announced, it was sort of it was always sort of a contentious thing when people were like, "Save the Clone Wars" every time somebody posted anything about Rebels on Twitter, and I was just like, God. Jesus, really? Like, everybody settle down. Like, it's done. The Clone Wars time is done, and now it's coming back, and I'm really excited for that too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like the animation style of it, just throwing it out there. I like the hyper stylized, hyper detailed animation of the Clone Wars, just because it's not like anything you've seen, and you can tell that it's like really expensive. But what I think is so cool about Laura really being into Rebels is it just goes to show that, you know, from a fandom perspective, like, you never know what's going to bring people in, and it's always surprising and like really awesome that Disney's been able to do that, you know?
Yeah, I agree. That's a great point.
So in terms of collectibles, I came up with this question all on my own right now. That's how we're going to do this. Are there any that you've that you've been looking to collect, or that anything that means a lot to you, some that have eluded you, or some that you're like, why do I own this right now?
Go ahead, Alice. Why don't you jump in?
All right. So as far as like collecting stuff, I have not really been into, keeping a whole lot of or having a whole lot of things of the sort. The first items that I ended up getting were at the very first C2E2. Carrie Fisher was signing autographs. And like somehow through a friend of a friend who was working for a video game company, I got in last minute. I got like 3 tiny figurines that were all dirty and gross, probably from 30 years ago for $10. And I met Carrie Fisher and got an autographed picture of her. I'm a horrible person because when I walked in, I was the very last person of the day. And when I walked in, the only thing out of my mouth was, "Oh my God, I'm so jealous you got to make out with Harrison Ford." And she just looked at me like I was a complete fucking nut job. So then I kept going though, is the problem. I was like, no, really, if I saw him in real life, like I would latch myself on and not let go. And she goes, "Ugh, no, you wouldn't. He's a horrible screen kisser." And then I just stared and I was like, I really like your books. And she was like, "Okay." And then signed it and I walked away and I was mortified. But, yeah, I have the worst case of like being starstruck of anyone. It's fucking ridiculous. But as far as toys and stuff, I haven't really gone that direction, but I do have a whole lot of knickknacks, especially jewelry. I mean, I went on a rampage. I've got Star Wars aprons, R2D2 measuring cups, like custom shit off Etsy, a lot of earrings and necklaces, badge reels, keychains. I mean, I've got Star Wars trinkets out the ass, basically.
Alice is really into like the Lego mini figurines. That's what a lot of her earrings and her badge reel are. So I enjoy that. And I've got my Hera mini keychain too. So that's the Lego figure. That stuff's so fun.
Housewares.
Yeah.
Line charms.
My favorite part of the Carrie Fisher story is how you lean into just the Harrison Ford thing.
So embarrassing.
Oh God.
I'm surprised she didn't have a different reaction to that from like all the videos and interviews I've seen with Carrie Fisher. I feel like she would have had like something cheekier to say to you after that.
Oh, it was pure like rusting bitch face. Just like no.
It was also like the end of the day. The poor thing was probably exhausted, like if Alice was the last person of the day at that con.
Yeah.
Her last memory of that one is just you asking that question. Or like, ugh.
That's her last impression of Chicago, Alice. Jesus.
Oh my God, it's true. It's true. Fuck. Oh no.
Could be worse. Could be a lot worse.
Wow, I didn't even think about it that way, Laura. Oh shit.
Well, so for me, when it comes to collecting, I'm kind of in the same boat as Alice because I'm not a huge collector. I to be totally honest, I don't care for clutter. I'm a pretty messy person, so the fewer amount of things I can have laying around, the better. Just for my own efforts when it comes to cleaning my apartment. But I do have I've got a Hera and a Cassian Andor Funko Pop. The Hera one I love just because it's Hera. The Cassian Andor one I love because Alice threw it at me and spilled my drink, and almost like electrocuted my computer charger to the point of not working when we were recording one day, and that's how I came to own the Cassian Andor Funko Pop. So I do love it just because it has the story behind it. It makes me laugh every time I see it, so he sits on my desk at work. But I think in terms of things that I'm wanting to collect, there's not a whole lot on the list. But last year at Comic-Con, that would have been Comic-Con 2018 in San Diego, they did a reveal of the Blast of Chopper with the Blast Off base,
Yes.
the Black Series figure, and I am like dying to get one. So I they're like $20 or something at Walmart. I saw that I could have like pre-ordered it a while ago. I don't know if I'm going to go out of my way to get it. If I happen to see it or come across it somewhere, I'll probably pick one up. But it is a really cool, sleek looking figure. So I'm kind of hoping I can snag one of those one of these days.
That's good. Do you go to a lot of the San Diego Comic Cons?
This will be my first one. I'm going to
wow.
Comic-Con for the first time this year. I only have tickets to Thursday and Sunday, but I'm really excited. My brother lives out there, so I'll have an opportunity to visit with some family and stuff too. But yeah, I've gone to C2E2 the last 2-3 years. I think just 2 years. And San Diego Comic-Con will be my only other con besides C2E2 and Celebration.
Oh, that's cool. I've never been to San Diego Comic-Con, but I've actually been to San Diego during Comic-Con.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How sad.
Well, I was there for a different reason, but I was only there for the Sunday night 10 years ago, and it was rammed with people, and it's only gotten bigger since. So that should be a lot of fun for you.
Yeah, I'm excited. It should be a good time.
And so you were at Orlando Celebration, but Alice, you were not. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, we didn't know each other at the time.
No.
So it just wasn't on my mind. But Laura, you totally went on a whim, right?
Yeah, I bought my tickets to Orlando, and I got Friday, Saturday tickets only. I bought them like 2 weeks before the convention. Like, Star Wars Celebration was a different beast in 2017 than it is for 2020, and even what it was for this year. Like, I can't believe that I was able to get tickets for that. I mean, obviously I didn't get Thursday. Thursday was the 40th anniversary celebration of A New Hope. But I was really, that wasn't even on my radar. I was wanting to go so that I could be there for the Rebels panel, and I got to be at the Rebels panel in the room, and that was all I cared about that year. Seeing The Last Jedi was just a bonus. The panel that year was great too.
Yeah, my wife got me the 4-day pass for Christmas that year. Like,
nice.
Can you imagine now? That was I would not be going because tickets didn't sell it. Just this year is just insane to me. Just
I know,
unbelievable.
Like, they were gone within what, an hour?
An
the
hour.
4-day passes.
Yeah,
yeah. They've actually already opened. I saw on Twitter today. They've already opened late.
Really? I wondered when they were going to do that. I'm glad that they did it sooner than last year.
Yeah, they open late to get your name on a waiting list for people who need to get rid of tickets when the time comes.
That's good because this year I thought it was ridiculous, a little over the top. I don't know, did they sell in it was weird. I thought it was strange because 2 years ago it was Christmas time. I got them on Christmas. They sold out I think the 20th or 21st of December 2 years ago. This year an hour. It just unbelievable. Star Wars is dead. I think it's confirmed. Nobody likes Star Wars.
Dead as a doornail. Nail the coffin shut.
It has ceased to be, clearly.
Obviously, but one thing that tried to kill the Star Wars fandom was this little movie called The Last Jedi, which, as you mentioned just a little bit ago, they had a nice, awesome panel at Star Wars Celebration Orlando. So you obviously your Rebels was your main goal there, Laura. But did you see it live at this show stage or anything like that when you were there, or did you watch it later on online, the trailer for Last Jedi?
So in Orlando, there were 2 overflow rooms for the Last Jedi panel. There was the big main room and then 2 overflow. I was in the first overflow room. So I waited in line to get into the Last Jedi panel for probably 6 or 7 hours and still didn't get in and made it in. I was in the back of the overflow room too, of the first one. So that tells you, what it was back then. But it was... Yeah, I mean, it was a really fun time getting to hang out and wait. The anticipation was crazy. Rian Johnson came out in the middle of the night and passed out donuts or something or pizza maybe.
Yeah.
I wasn't there when he was there, but I heard later and saw some pictures, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, I mean, if the question is really what our thoughts are on The Last Jedi, I personally loved it. I think it's probably my second favorite Star Wars film.
Well, I wasn't going there yet. I just wanted to know your impression of being in that room when that trailer dropped. To start, we'll get to The Last Jedi in a little bit because people have opinions on it. But in that room when the trailer dropped, what was it like? What was that experience like?
It was crazy. That was so much fun getting, it's really kind of about in that moment, getting to be in the room with other fans. It's such a huge thing, and you don't think about it like that, and people have no idea until you've experienced it what it's like to be in a room full of Star Wars fans that are as diehard as you are, when you get to see something like that for the first time. I mean, like, grown men are crying. Like, it was a good trailer. I don't think it was quite as moving as the Rise of Skywalker trailer was, but it was, you know, a long time of anticipation, 2 years of anticipation leading up to that moment. So it was, I don't know. It's hard to remember it because it's so different than the celebration experience was so different in 2019 than it was in 2017. But it's a different experience when you're waiting in line with a group of people for that long, and then you get to you sit and bond with them for like 6-7 hours or more, and then you get to like sit and watch that trailer with them and experience it with them. It's a very like it's just a very moving moment. It's cool. Yeah.
I didn't wait in line for that long. I think I got there at 5:30 or 6 in the morning. Before, because I was with some friends and my wife, and everybody kind of agreed, like, no, we're not sleeping on the floor. We'll sleep in our room, and then we'll get there in the morning. And I, you know, watching Celebration in England and in Anaheim, the show stage was, I was like, let's just go there and watch it. And so we watched it there, and it was, you know, we didn't get a seat, we didn't get the poster, but we stood there and we watched it, and that was a lot of fun because Ashley Eckstein came out and Sam Witwer came out and Hayden Christensen came out. And so they do a great job of Celebration for people that can't get into those panels to still have a great time and still experience Star Wars to the fullest from what I remember 2 years ago now. So Alice, where were you for that? Were you excited for that trailer? Did you sit at home and wait 6 hours in front of your computer for it to load?
Yeah, I mean, I just waited until it came out on YouTube, but I was totally pumped and excited about it and didn't know what to expect or, you know, anything like that. So, you know, it's kind of like with The Force Awakens. I Googled spoilers or, you know, whatever kind of news stuff there was up to a point, and then I just kind of, again, October-ish is like blackout mode because that's when the real, in my opinion, like the real spoilers start to come out.
Yeah, they dropped that trailer on a Monday Night Football.
Yes.
Which they
now I remember.
Which they did with The Force Awakens as well. But this one, I don't know how you both felt about it, but this one seemed almost bigger in a way because the Force Awakens. I mean, I think ultimately Force Awakens was a bigger experience, but this trailer dropping in front of Monday Night Football, Mark Hamill kind of tweeted it by accident, and there was this anticipation like the Jedi must end, what are we going to see? So you just said now you remember. Do you remember watching that trailer, and were you very excited about that football game?
The football game, no. Was it actually a Bears game?
I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was a Bears game. I'm a Saints fan because I'm from Louisiana, so DGAF, you know. But I watched it exclusively for the trailer because I knew that, you know, that's when it was coming. And did tickets go on sale that same night?
They did, yes. Right after.
Okay, yeah. Yep, and I got my tickets to the Dirty IMAX down the street. So down the street it actually is down the street, but it's like a 30-minute drive down this one street to get to.
Oh my God. And
That's
Laura,
funny.
what about you?
You know what's really funny? I don't have a lot of memory of that, of seeing that trailer for the first time. I'm sure that I was probably just like stressing out because it's always sort of been on me to get the opening night tickets for me and my like group of 10 friends. Cause usually that's about the limit of like how many tickets you can buy at one time, or like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And so it would have been on me to buy that, so I would have just been like, all right, play the fucking trailer so I can get to the ticket, so I can get this off my list and not have to worry about it again. So I do remember it being football. I remember it being the Bears. I remember like watching the trailer over and over again on my TV after it had premiered, but that would have been like after I had bought the tickets and gotten through that stress of it first.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the one that has to buy the tickets, and it's so stressful to do it. I don't think people understand how much pressure you're under to get tickets for Star Wars on opening night. It's just
I mean, I've done it for like all the Marvel movies. I've done it for a couple of the like Disney live action. I mean, like I've done it for all the Star Wars for my group, and it's just like these moments come and go, and I'm just like, oh my God, it's like so much stress just so I can like go sit in a theater and not talk to my friends for 3 hours while we sit and watch a movie. It's ridiculous.
Seriously. So that trailer gave us that big moment at the end where Kylo reaches out with his hand, and she's looking at, and Rey says, "I'm just looking for my place in all of this," or something like that. And there's that moment like, oh, is she gonna get trained by Kylo? What did you each of you have an anticipation from what to expect from this movie, especially in regards to Rey and Kylo Ren?
I didn't. I didn't know what to expect. The At least the concept of shipping, I thought that was a new word. I'm totally unhip, and I didn't realize that was even a term until recently. But I didn't really go in with any expectations except for, just general curiosity because we were wondering about Snoke. We knew about the Praetorian Guards. We knew we were going to get more Luke, but other than that, we didn't really know much of anything. So at that point, I was just kind of like avoiding spoilers or avoiding too many, and I was spending a lot of my time just focusing on reading the books, really.
Which books? Like just all of them, or were there specific ones?
Yeah, I've probably read like at least 25 of the new canon novels, I think. So there were a lot that had like fun tie-ins, right? Like Leia, Princess of Alderaan, the Canto Bight
Mm-hmm.
book, which I really enjoyed. Some people gave it a lot of shit. Phasma, I read after the fact. I really loved it. Um, I kept myself busy. We'll put it that way.
Did either of you read the Aftermath trilogy?
Yes,
What
loved it.
at what point did you read it?
Oh, I think I started reading it. I'm trying to think. I think I started reading it before The Last Jedi came out. I don't remember when I finished it. I remember the first book took me a long time to get through because
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't used to the writing style and I thought it was kind of boring. But I like powered through the other two because I love them so much. And I kind of want to reread the third one because it has so much of like Palpatine's contingency
Yeah.
plan type shit that I'm wondering if there will be tie-ins referenced from that in The Rise of Skywalker. Um, but it's kind of a blur to me at this point. It just seems like ages ago.
Yeah, I felt the first Aftermath was, it took me about 100 pages to really even get into it, and then it never really settled that well with me, but then yeah, the next two were just awesome and I couldn't put them down. So I was just asking because you say you were late to it, and I just want to know the opinion of somebody that kind of hit those, because I got that book on the Force Friday it came out, right? It was like, I need to read this book right now. This is the first new canon novel. What's happening? And it was a letdown in regards to it being the very first new canon book that they were promoting heavily. So I just think if somebody's perspective that came in later on, how that would affect you in reading that book.
Yeah, I just can't remember when I got to Aftermath. It was probably like the fifth or sixth canon novel that I started. Um, but again, I found the first one extremely painful, and then the other two I just love, but I can't put a timeline on it. Laura, do you remember when you read them?
Okay, so I actually learned about Aftermath from other fans at Star Wars Celebration 2017. At that point, I had read Ahsoka, and I think I'd started reading A New Dawn, or maybe I had read A New Dawn, and I was asking people every time I was in line of what they thought I should read next. And I had said, like, I want to read Aftermath because I want to know what happens after Return of the Jedi. And people, like, everybody kept giving me the same response, which was like, um, do maybe there's like another one though. Like it was very like sort of contentious where people were like, yeah, no, actually I don't know if you want to go that route. People were trying to warn me about, the sort of weirdness of this book that Alice was talking about. The writing style is very weird. There's a lot of sort of what feels like stream of consciousness writing, and there's the interludes that are jumping all over to the place to different settings and different characters and then never revisiting them ever again. And it's just kind of the book's just sort of all over the place. So I totally get it. I really enjoyed the Aftermath series overall, but yeah, that first book is that one's a doozy. It's not by any means where I would recommend anyone start if you're just getting into reading Star Wars canon novels.
Which is tough because that is the one that that was their first one. Like, hey, this is where your starting point, and it's
like you want to gravitate towards that. I totally get it. But that's not where I'd recommend starting. But I did enjoy the trilogy overall. I have to say I'm glad I'm happy that they took the second and third books in a sort of different direction just in terms of the overall style.
Yeah, I think part of it was Chuck Wendig's hands might have been tied in that first one where they're like, you can't reveal anything, so don't. Like, okay, what can I do? Well, you can have Wedge.
Yeah.
You can have Wedge, maybe. I think it was tricky for him, I think. I think some people are hard on him, and I don't know if it was his fault necessarily.
Yeah.
And Mr. Bones is the best character.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a goddamn delight.
I will say, though, in that second Aftermath book, when you find out how Snap gets his nickname, Snap, was dumb. I don't know if you remember that. But
I don't even remember how. Was it like a maneuver or something that he does?
No. It was because he could snap his fingers very quickly. And
that's stupid.
It was. I remember reading it like, oh, okay, because his name is, I can't remember his name, Temin or something like that. Mr. Tumnus. I don't know. It's something like that in the first one. And then in the movie,
I feel like I've said that exact same thing. I feel like I've called him Mr. Tumnus, or I've referenced Mr. Tumnus in some way. But yeah, I think it's Temin. Maybe. But anyway, Mr. Bones, just like picturing one of those old battle droids like hopping around in a field of flowers saying, I love murder. Want me to murder for you?
Roger.
yes.
Brings me joy.
I wish he was in The Force Awakens.
Same.
I hope we see him somehow. I don't care how I see him. I just want to fucking see him, man.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome if he showed up in the Rise of Sky. He was the Rise of Skywalker. Spoiler.
Oh my god, that would be hilarious.
Whoa.
It would be amazing. Okay, so Alice, did you get tickets for the first day of Last Jedi?
Oh hell yeah! I did it. Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi. Opening night. There's by the Dirty IMAX. There's a really good barbecue place that I bring my friend I wouldn't call her. I guess she's more of like a Potterhead. Is that what they're called?
Yeah. Also, real good is a relative term. I grew up in Kansas City, so I wouldn't define that place as real good barbecue, but to each their own.
I like cornbread. So I remember walking out when I went to go see it. Like I had I don't know what all I had built up, but you know, I had been like really getting back into Star Wars for like almost a year at that point. And all I remember is really enjoying it and thinking it went by so fast, but walking out confused. Like what did I just see? And I think it's because it turned the entire arc of like the saga themes on its head in a way. I had a much better explanation for it, like if you would have asked me a year and a half ago or whatever. But I definitely walked out feeling confused and like maybe even a little bit disenchanted, to be honest. It didn't really resonate with me until it came out to buy for streaming, and I just got to like sit by myself, sit with my thoughts, and like watch it on my couch.
That's interesting. I like what you said, disenchanting. I think that's a fair way of saying. I think a lot of people felt that way coming out of the theater for that one because it did turn everything on its head, and it wasn't. I think that trailer from Orlando, Laura, really kind of was truthful in the tone of the film itself, where it wasn't the fun-loving, swashbuckling adventure. It was like this nitty-gritty. You're gonna learn some stuff, and you're gonna hate some stuff, but you need this.
Yeah, I like that. I like that argument a lot. My thing with The Last Jedi, the first time I saw it, is that I didn't care for it leaving the theater, and I remember leaving and just being like feeling so deflated because I was like, I went to Celebration, I saw this teaser in a room full of fans. I watched the trailer. I was so excited. I bought the tickets for the opening night. I've been building up to this moment for so long now. And I am like just devastated how I'm feeling leaving this theater because I liked the movie. I didn't love it. And I feel like maybe I just ruined it for myself by building it up too much. And then, I went online and I saw some of the arguments back and forth. And I was kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to close this off for a while and I'm going to go see this movie again. And I saw it 2 days later, again, still opening weekend, just to get another, sort of idea of and get a second viewing and to see if it, kind of changed anything. And I swear to God, I felt like I was seeing a different movie. Like, I left the theater and I just absolutely loved it. I feel like I understood it a lot more. I was able to absorb things a lot easier the second time around and paid a lot more attention to things. And I just felt like it was like eye-opening. I mean, it was the weirdest thing. I've never ever had that with any other movie where I like saw it and then saw it again 2 days later and felt like I was seeing something else. Like there was the two experiences couldn't have been more different. It was bizarre.
And you're not the first person to say that either. That's what's with this movie. It's almost multiple. I just saw it, I think, like a week or two ago. I rewatched it usually I just like fast. I'm like, Praetorian Guard, let's get this over with. Let's watch this awesome scene. But this time I said, I'm going to watch it from start to finish. And for the Patreons, I was like, I'm going to do an honest review. Like, this is it. This is me just being completely honest a year and a half later, whatever. And aside from a couple jokes here and there, I liked it the most I've ever liked that movie. Like, I was like, oh, it's all just like you. I almost saw it with fresh eyes, like new eyes, this new perspective on it. And I think I appreciate it a lot more now. And I think the Rise of Skywalker Coming is going to shine a lot more light on it and a lot more positivity on Last Jedi.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's only going to get better with age, The Last Jedi. It's only going to get better with multiple viewings and repeat viewings. And I think The Rise of Skywalker is going to show us even new ways that the movie, things we didn't see before until after we see the final film of, things that were included in there that sort of changed everything. But yeah, it really... I like the way that you put it, Alice, where you kind of, what did you say about it? That it like...
It turned the themes of the saga, it changed completely the direction of them, and
yeah.
I was just disenchanted.
I did not ever think about it that way, and I like the way that you put that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I ended up really... So what was your thought on, you said you had like multiple viewings and your feeling on it changed after you saw... You sat and saw it at home. Did you not see it a second time in theaters? You didn't see it for a second time until it came out?
No, I did see it for a second time. I saw it the Sunday after because I was worried about there being Last Jedi questions at trivia that week when we met.
Which of course there weren't.
I know. I'm like, I wouldn't watch this for no reason. Okay. And I actually remember being like, I thought I was gonna fall asleep, to be honest. It just seemed so much slower to me in theaters, and I still like was processing how it just completely switched the themes of the saga, and it just kind of being really big into the prequels and how they were set up and developed compared to the original trilogy. It's just a very, very different experience. So again, once I got to sit and watch it just by myself in my own little Alice bubble that is my house with my dog, that's when I finally connected. I think it just took a little while for me to soak in, and then also talking to a lot of people about it. And I think, Laura, I had mentioned this to you. I talked to a guy who was in the military at a party, and he was telling me why it resonated with him so much, just from military stuff. I probably can't, I definitely cannot articulate how he articulated things to me, but hearing completely different opinions from people with different backgrounds and perspectives, I think that added a lot, because I was able to then think of it, from other, walking in other people's shoes in a sense.
So for both of you, how many times did you see The Last Jedi in the theater?
Just twice for me.
Yeah, same for me.
And then you bought it immediately on digital or Blu-ray, or did you wait a little bit of time?
Immediately. Pre-ordered.
I bought it
Pre-ordered.
immediately. I wanted that. I wanted those features and stuff that were on the that were in the extras, like the director and the Jedi, and the
Yes.
like. When I heard that there was going to be a score-only version of the film, I was like, I mean, that sold me immediately.
Yeah, that's for what you said earlier. That makes a lot of sense. So you see The Last Jedi, and then you have a trivia night a couple days later, and that's when you two met.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the Force at work.
It really is, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just so wild because like I was saying earlier, a lot of the podcasts I was listening to, people when they talk about Celebration, they talk about their Star Wars friends a lot and how it's kind of like this really special thing and I was just kind of like, whatever, that's, puh. It just didn't seem realistic to me, I guess.
Mhm.
And then I found my Star Wars friend and real life friend too.
Yay! That me.
Oh,
It
twist!
is.
That's a twist. I didn't see that one coming. So how did you meet at this trivia? I mean, aside from answering questions, so did you both respect each other's knowledge of was it a Star Wars trivia or was it film trivia?
It was a Star Wars trivia, and we had both gone to a whole bunch, and there was one that I know we were both at because I was looking at the Facebook invite page and I saw like this chick post like, do we need to know extended universe? Blah 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 blah. And I was like, oh, that fucking bitch is my competition, man. And then like I remember sitting at the bar and like seeing Elora and thinking like, oh, that's her shit. And anyway, of course we didn't like meet or anything that way, but at the very last one there's a trivia master because the trivia here at least they're different companies that go around and host them, and the guy who was doing it that night is one we had both met independently at other bars where he was the trivia master. So he had met us separately, and then like after that night was like, oh my god, you guys are 1 and 2, you need to meet, like this is that. And so he introduced us, and what was extra special his name's
Sorry,
Jeremy.
I need to pause for just 1 second. I'm sorry, something just came up, so I gotta duck out for like 5 minutes. I'm so sorry. Feel free to keep
No,
going.
it's
I will
cool.
jump in. Yeah, my apologies.
Okay, yeah, I'll keep going. And what was extra special is we had our friendiversary. I want to say, was it December? I don't remember. We had our friendiversary in December, and that exact night of the night we met, there was another trivia hosted by the same company with the same host who introduced us. So we went and, played trivia, and we destroyed everyone. I think we had like 184, and the next closest team was 69.
Oh my god.
But yeah, it was the guy who introduced us, and it was exactly 1 year from the night,
Wow.
and we won together, and it was just a fun, special time for us. So it's, what are the odds? It's pretty fucking cool.
Never tell me the odds. Apparently they're very good. Apparently the odds are definitely amazing. So you get the Last Jedi and all that. That's out.
Uh-huh.
Were you excited for Solo? Was Solo like on your radar? Because it's not. I love Solo. I was looking forward to Solo, but in terms of the saga, it's not really up there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have high hopes for it just because of all the drama surrounding changing the directors, and it felt, when you see that a movie is going to come out less than 6 months after it wrapped, and you're hearing all the rumors that the whole thing was rewritten like 2 months before or something like that. I think the natural reaction is to not have your hopes up. I also didn't really enjoy the Journey to Solo books.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to them on audiobook. I didn't physically read them, but I wasn't a huge fan of them. And I again, I didn't really have any hopes or expectations, and a lot of the comments for it were about the movie theaters, essentially, like the lights or the film in general being too dark or something like that. But the problem, or the first time I saw it, Laura and I were together, and we had just won a trivia and had matching solo shirts that we won, and we're wearing them together with this huge group, and the theater experience the first time we watched it together just wasn't great. The sound in the theater was really crappy, and like that makes a huge difference when
Yes.
the movie sound sucks. So there was that, and then the audience wasn't your normal Star Wars audience. Like normally when you go to movies, like big movies that, like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, eh, Star Wars obviously, and kind of like the opening stuff comes up in this case the Lucasfilm logo, anytime that comes up and you have like the green color kind of glittering around, usually the audience is like, woo, and like clapping and all sorts of shit. And they were silent. Like, Laura and I
Yeah.
were the only ones who were just like cheering, like, hell yeah. So I enjoyed it, but I didn't think too much of it. And then we went and saw it the next week at a theater downtown that had like really nice sound and like recliner seats and everything. And it was such a different experience, but in a good way. So I think we both really enjoyed it. I've probably only watched it a couple of times since it came out, but I do own it. I was concerned about, oh fuck, what's his face?
Oh, Alden Ehrenreich.
Alden, and yeah, I was
Yeah.
concerned about his acting just because when he said in one of the trailers he had said like I have a good feeling about this, and the way it just sounded weird from an acting perspective. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I'm not an actor. I can't, I have no right being like, ooh, that sucks, because I couldn't do it. But some things about it just kind of took me away. But overall, I thought it was really good. There were some things that were disappointing about it, like they'd built up Tandy Newton a whole lot as Val, and she was around for all of 5 minutes. Same thing with Rio, hardly around. Um, I, I'm really curious to see what the original version would have been like. But I do think it's a good movie and one of those that maybe a lot of people haven't seen, or it's what I'll call an airplane movie,
Yeah.
where almost everyone you meet, they're like, oh, I watched it on an airplane. It was so good. The Disaster Artist is another example of a movie that I thought was fantastic, but everyone, it didn't get publicized well enough. And, some stuff happened, whatever. But everyone, who's seen it, they all watched it on an airplane and just fell in love with it. And I think that's kind of how Solo is. I think part of the issue too is how soon it came out after Last Jedi,
Yeah.
and then also because they had to redo so much of it, just the whole thing with the marketing schedules and all of that. Like, I feel like they could have pushed it back, but they felt like they should keep it where it was and kind of rushed things. So I think the publicity is what did it in, and then also the fan temperature after The Last Jedi probably didn't help either.
Oh, definitely. So that was the first movie you two saw together, Star Wars wise.
Yeah, yeah, in
It
theaters it
wouldn't.
was.
It wouldn't have. Oh no, it wouldn't have been Rogue One. That was 2016. Yeah, totally forgot. It would have been Solo. That's so funny.
How are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Solo?
That's really funny that Alice was talking about it. Most people watching it on an airplane. That's how my youngest brother watched it, and he ended up texting me that day and like saying that he really enjoyed it. And I naturally we saw it in theaters. We saw it twice in theaters together, and I really enjoyed it as a movie. It's not my favorite Star Wars film. I think it's another one that upon rewatches, it just kind of keeps getting better. I wish there was more. I wish I enjoyed more of the stuff around it. I didn't get into any of the like Journey to Solo books that came out. I mean, like Last Shot and the novelization of Solo, and what was the other one?
Most Wanted.
Most Wanted. I just couldn't get into any of them. So I wish I had enjoyed the the stuff surrounding it a little more. The movie itself I enjoyed. I don't know how. I would like to know more about these characters and where they go in terms of like making Solo 2 happen. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be done on film. I think that it would be a good fit for Disney Plus or for a live action series. Maybe more so than like a sequel in theaters, but I don't know. I'm sort of on the fence, but overall I enjoyed it.
And did you enjoy the experience being new Star Wars fan? I guess you would have been Star Wars fans about 5 months at that point. Seeing it together, did that have a little special magic to it at all?
It was cool to get to see it together. I enjoyed getting it was cool getting to see a Star Wars film together. I was still sort of with my big crew that I normally see these opening night movies with. Alice's friend Katie still came with us, and so it was sort of a merging of our two groups. It was a good time. That night overall was fun. I enjoyed it. I mean, at that point we'd been fans longer than 5 months. We'd been friends for only about 5 months or so at that time. But overall, I think it was really special to actually get to like experience a Star Wars movie together. That was cool.
Totally.
And around this time, the announcement comes in. Star Wars Celebration is heading to Chicago in 2019. Tickets will go on sale June 5th or whatever it was.
We were all up on that bitch. The day they said, oh yeah, the day they said it was in Chicago, we booked the Hyatt connected to the convention center. We live in Chicago, but it's so huge, and getting back and forth from our neighborhoods to McCormick would just be so expensive and take so long. We booked that hotel off as soon as they announced it. And then, we got the 5-day passes, and we're just stoked. I personally was in shock that it was going to be in Chicago.
Yeah, that was a huge surprise to me as well. I mean, it made sense, the amount of people that go to those things, like the size of that convention hall.
Yeah, it's huge. I threw my back out walking around in flip-flops. It still hasn't fixed yet.
Oh, jeez. So you're going to get a pair of fresh runners for Anaheim?
Yeah. I have orthotic flip-flops now, and I almost exclusively wear tennis shoes.
Alice is going to look like a real tourist walking around eating tacos and going to Star Wars Celebration. You're going to have a fanny pack. It's going to be great.
It's going to be amazing.
Maybe I'll get platform platform sneakers, and then I'll like be closer to your height.
Yeah.
Laura, and then like you won't have to bend down in pictures or anything.
You'll also like look a little bit like a Spice Girl, and it'll be great.
I'm down with that. I love the 90s. Give it to me.
You both booked your hotel in Anaheim before you bought tickets, before you got your 4-day passes.
That is accurate.
You were smart.
Yeah.
You were like, we know where it's going to be. Let's just book this now so we don't have to have that deal with the headaches of the hotel blocks.
Well, we're all about contingency plans, and we had as soon as they announced, or not as soon as they announced it, but I guess a few weeks before tickets went on sale, we had called around the hotels that are really, really close to the convention center, and none of them were taking reservations yet. So Laura found one that was like a 10-minute drive away and booked that just to have as a contingency plan. But for some reason, I'm the lucky one when it comes to getting in online ticket queues. So we have a hotel connected to the convention center again.
Amazing.
No.
So
that reminds me, I need to cancel the original hotel I booked.
well, you have until I think like 2 weeks before, so you got time.
Yeah.
But don't forget, or else that charge will show up on your credit card, and you'll be like, no. Like Vader.
I know. I'll be like, what?
Sucked it.
You're like, what the fuck is this? Somebody stole my credit card in Anaheim.
Actually, that happened in Orlando. Somebody stole a lot of people's credit cards in Orlando.
I heard about that. Yeah, that's too bad.
Good time. So you're going to Anaheim. Anything that you've learned from Chicago that you want to bring with you to Anaheim in terms of how to experience the celebration?
Drink less.
Less.
I don't know if it's about. It's figuring out how to drink enough in a good way. We had a lot of really hungover times. We had, there's a lot of fun. We were out until like 2 in the morning most nights.
Oh yeah,
just partying.
it was a lot of fun. Every single night that we were out, I had a blast. Except for there was one night that I finally hit like a peak of social exhaustion, and I just needed to like go back to the room and be in the room by myself, which I did, and it helped me a lot. Everyone's got to hit the reset button. But yeah, we partied really hard and had a really, really good time. And I wouldn't trade that for anything, but I think overall I will probably just partake in maybe some other activities that are permitted in California and drink a little bit less.
Well, I think we know our limits now, as far as that. I'm still planning on partying hard, but I think what allowed us to do that, and maybe kind of like why we just were like balls to the walls with everything, is because of the what the fuck are they called? The lotteries.
Yeah.
Like that gave us
it basically
excuse.
gave us permission, to be like, you get to go party now, and we did.
Did you get into any of the lotteries? Did you win any of those in Chicago?
We didn't win any of them, but we were really, really lucky because, Laura, you can take this.
Sure. So we put it out there on Twitter and like had said like, okay, we entered all the lotteries, and we'd been talking about it on our show. And I had said like, I'm not going to Star Wars Celebration to walk on the floor. I'm not going to Star Wars Celebration to get autographs. I'm going for panels because that's my favorite thing. That's my favorite part of Celebration besides like getting to party with all my friends. And I was like utterly devastated when we didn't win any panels. Obviously, Alice and I bought our tickets together, so we entered all the lotteries together. We got none of them. And so I remember like finding out that morning before, was it the Wednesday morning that they released all of the lottery information before Celebration? I
think so.
Yeah.
I was terrified of texting you that day because I knew how frustrated you were.
I like went into the boardroom at my office and just like started bawling. I was so devastated that we didn't win any. But fortunately, we had a bunch of friends reach out to us. A bunch of people, that we're connected to on social media reached out, and via email, and just people who listen to our show who reached out and were like, hey, heard you didn't get in. I have an extra ticket to this. I have an extra ticket to that. I have an extra ticket to this panel or this overflow room, blah, blah, blah. And we ended up getting into almost all of the things that we wanted to see, at least in an overflow room. I was in the arena, I think, for 2 of the 3 panels I wanted to see. Alice made it into the arena for at least 1, right?
Yeah, I got in the arena for The Mandalorian, and then I was in overflow for the other 2. We didn't care about the Galaxy's Edge one, so we didn't bother with it, but
or
the
Fallen
others,
Order.
Or Fallen Order, but that was going on at the same time as something else.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one it was, but we got into all the panels we wanted to see, just because our social media and listener outreach was like, people have been very, very kind to us, and like we could not be more grateful.
I mean, it speaks to like the generosity of this community, of the people that have found our show and enjoy what we're doing, and just, the friends that we've made through doing this. It just blew my mind, like how generous some people are just out of the goodness of their hearts for like just no reason. Like it just blew my mind. It was great.
Yeah, it's insane. The Star Wars community is fantastic, and there was that black cloud for a little while after Last Jedi, and it still kind of lingers every once in a while. But the Star Wars fans are the nicest, most genuine, thoughtful people. Like, just we've been doing the Rebel Scum podcast for 3 years, and just the people that I've met, it's been insanely humbling and amazing. Just to know that there are people out there that are just nice people willing to do nice things for others. that's part of the reason why I wanted to do the Outlander Club podcast, was to get to know everybody's Star Wars stories, because everybody has them and they're all different and unique, and it brings us all together like the Force.
Totally.
I love it. That's great.
So do I. So what do you? Of course I do. So what do you both? Do you have any hopes for Anaheim 2020? Because obviously 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back will be there, which is the 6th best Star Wars film under Attack of the Clones, obviously. And then you have, and then who knows what else is going to be there, right? Which is crazy because it all sold out. And no one knows what's going to be happening.
I know. It's so weird.
I'm hoping for a Disney Plus live action Kenobi with Ewan McGregor.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. There was a tweet the other day that was like, whatever, there was a picture and there was one character per birth month. And it was like, this is the character you're going to be stuck in an elevator with for 5 hours. And mine was Attack of the Clones, Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan. And I was like, shit, yeah, I'm walking off that elevator pregnant.
Gross.
But fair.
Yep.
But fair. All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap it up. We've had my technical difficulties have taken over, so we're gonna wrap it. But I want to wrap it up, and the only way I could wrap up a conversation with the Force Toast podcast, and that is with some Star Wars trivia.
Oh God!
Oh no!
We are not prepared.
You don't have to be. It's very easy.
Good. We were just saying that, like, we haven't. I mean, we just recorded like last weekend, and we didn't ask each other questions. I have not watched a Star Wars movie in like ages, so I'm like rusty.
Don't worry. It's all very easy. It's all very basic. The first question is, what is the average height of a Jawa?
Are we like asking? Are we answering? Whoever answers first gets it, or are you asking us each specific questions? How you want us to go?
We're Team Jedi Mind Chicks right now.
Yeah, you're a team, so this is a team effort. So you both get to put your heads together and come up with the answers to the hardest Star Wars. These aren't very hard at all. These are, I'm telling you, they're pretty average.
I want to say 3 feet. What does that sound like to you, Laura?
I was thinking 4 feet, because they're not that much. Or I don't know. But do we compromise and go 3.6?
Let's go 3.5. Yeah.
Okay.
3.5.
Was that a real question?
It wasn't, but I Googled it. The Jawa measures at 1369 millimeters. Why would they? Wait, that's not even a Jawa in Star Wars. Hold on. This is actually, I have a trivia game where this is a real question.
No shit.
But I don't. Yeah, like it's just Star Wars trivia. I bought it for like $5. And it's like, what is the height of a Jawa? I don't know.
I think you were right, Alice.
Yeah, they don't have a height here, so I'm gonna say you're right. Ding, ding, ding.
Yay!
All right, now for the real questions. How many languages is C-3PO fluent in?
It depends on which movie you're asking as of.
That's a fair point.
Give them both, Laura.
Yeah, give me both then.
So prior to The Force Awakens, the answer is over 6 million. In the visual dictionary of The Force Awakens, it states that he's now fluent in over 7 million forms of communication.
He has aged gracefully.
Indeed.
He is.
Although you can't trust those visual dictionaries, because they also said that on Naboo, the Queen's election terms were 4 years.
Well, that visual dictionary was written prior to Disney buying the canon. So all the stuff that was, all those visual dictionaries for like episodes 1 through 6 are like sort of questionable as to what's canon and what's not.
Yeah. Just like the novelizations of the books are only canon when the stuff in the books have happened in the prequel movies. So if you read a prequel novel, nothing is canon unless it was in the movie. So I don't know what that means.
Right. Gray area.
All right. Next question. In which movie does the camera pan
Attack of the Clones.
All right. Down. Which one does it pan down? You're wrong. Yeah, Attack of the Clones, which is the best Star Wars movie.
Yes.
It's the only one where it pans up, right?
Yeah, that's the only one. It's kind of curious that that's the only one. Like, you think they might have decided to do it again. All right. How many dewbacks were in the original 1977 theatrical cut of Star Wars, which was Star Wars: A New Hope, but was not called that at the time?
I think it was just 2, right?
All right,
It was 2 or 3.
All right, you're cheating.
And then they changed it to 5, maybe?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
You're cheating. It was 2, but anyway.
Okay.
Okay. And finally, what was the original name of the very first Star Wars film when George Lucas brought it into screenwriting?
Oh, you mean like the full, like, of the first draft or whatever?
Yeah, the first draft of Star Wars.
Okay, Alice, do you know it? I almost have to, like, type it out in front of me in order to get it all right.
No, because all I can think of is Star Wars. I
Okay.
I have no idea of anything special.
It's so long. Okay, it's something like...
You can be close. I'm not going to hold you. I think anybody can actually. I mean, there might be 3 people that can, but you don't have to get it exact, but close.
Okay, it's something like the story of Luke's Star Killer in the Journey of the Wills, Star Wars, or something like that.
You're very close. That is pretty impressive. It's the adventures of Luke Starkiller as taken from the Journal of the Wills, Saga 1, The Star Wars.
Yeah, it's so much.
So much.
Like,
I know. Like,
so many words.
Nice job, Laura.
Thanks. I was close. If you had asked me, like, back right before the Schmodown, I may have been able to answer it actually spot on, because I was very well studied up at that point. But at this point, yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit rusty. I gotta get back on it.
well, you did very well. So those were taken from. These are supposed to be the toughest Star Wars trivia questions in the galaxy. So
Nice.
I mean, I think you did pretty well for the toughest ones of all time.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
for that. That was awesome.
It was
A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one.
one for sure. So we're gonna wrap it up. We obviously, you have a podcast called the Force Toast Podcast, but is there anywhere else people can find you at?
Oh yeah, we're all over the place. So on social media, the show is at Force Toast Pod. Alice is at Slaya all day. That's like Leia with an S at the beginning. And I am @Laura. Those are our handles at Instagram and Twitter. And our show can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, Overcast, Spotify, and as of recently, we are now on Radio Public and iHeartRadio.
Bam. So no excuses not to find your podcast anywhere.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun on Twitter. So if you're not already following us, come join the conversation. We have a blast with our friends and listeners there.
Awesome. Everybody should check you out on Twitter and your podcast. Obviously, thanks so much for joining me on the Outlander Club. I had a blast despite the technical difficulties. This was a great time. I don't even know how long this went for because there was so many pausing and running and jumping.
I can't wait for you to hear what we did when you disappeared.
Me too. It's going to be like listening to your show. Anyway,
Thank
so
you.
it'll be a lot of fun. I cannot wait. So thanks so much once again.
Thank you for having
Thank
us, James. It was
you.
great.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.